Hey everybody, it's Diandra Marie, and I am so blessed, so thankful, so honored to be sitting next to Jodie Patterson, who is the author of The Bold World, which is an amazing book about not just her life, but how she learned, how she unlearned in order to transition along with her son, Pernell. A lot of what you talk about, and I feel like a lot of what your book is about, is intersectionality. You know, you grew up in a very, you say an active Black household. You knew a lot about your Blackness and pro-Blackness. There is a lot of transphobia in the Black community. Sure. So I just wanted to ask you again, how do you feel like not only can your book help others in the Black community be less transphobic or not transphobic at all, but how can we do better as a people and a race to respect Black,
There is phobia across the board. Absolutely. I mean, I've seen it in all communities, in all age groups, and it's deadly in all communities and all age groups. And I think the first thing that starts to address phobia is proximity. We have to be close to each other. We have to stay close and live close lives. Much of what culture is telling us to do now is separate. Yeah. Go into your separate spaces, take your separate routes, work in separate communities. But what I found in my family, and we are very diverse culturally. We speak 5 languages. I have 2 ex-husbands. My children, some are African, and some are their fathers are another father is European and Asian. So we have a lot of different mixes. Our salve has been that we've stayed close to each other. So within our differences, we have to experience each other in close proximity, and I think that dismantles some of the phobia. But I think within our own community, within the Black community, we have to see this as a top priority. We have to see it as a hard issue. Gender and the contemplation of identity is not something for the privileged or something for white folks or something for when I retire. Right? Thinking about who you are, owning who you are, self-determination, those things are rights for all of us. Absolutely. And if we're not doing it now, mass incarceration, drug addiction, high school dropout rate, all of those things increase. It is key for Blacks in particular because if you have transphobia and LGBT phobia, and then on top of it, you add Black, it is a deadly disaster. Absolutely. So it is in our best interest to fix this and to think of this and to approach this now. Absolutely. Because we're getting hit the hardest. There was a point when my son was becoming less responsive to life. And that was when I thought, that's when it hit me, this is not working. So when we ask someone to be who they're not, we're inviting death. Yeah. When we insist that someone is who they are not, we're inviting death. And you do that long enough, and death will come. So at a certain point, I realized the path we were on. Wow. Which was not towards life. Absolutely. And I relate to that just as, again, I don't identify as a trans person, but just as someone who is diagnosed with a mental illness, like I can definitely see how, the pressures of the lives our parents want us to live, right. And it brings me back to what my mom said when I first told her that I am a part of the queer community. Is just, she's just like, wait, the word queer is throwing me.
Right. Like, or even queer. Lesbian. Yeah. She's just like, she was like, I was sort of rejecting you at first because I was so afraid of how the world would treat you. And
I think that fear comes from an understanding that America is not kind to people that are different. Absolutely. And America has been divided on race and love and class for so many years. Absolutely. Also probably divided on identity, on transgender. And so I saw that. I saw my fear coming up with my child because I knew this is a hard America. That this America might not accept my kid. Right. But the America may not be ready, but my kid is ready. Right. So we have to just follow those leaders, right? Absolutely. And he's a leader.
I don't feel like a lot of parents really realize, okay, either you're going to be with your child or you're not. And there's going to be a disconnect. And that's going to be based on how you react to my life.
We're not changing the fact that trans folks exist and have always existed. Right. We're just connecting ourselves to life or disconnecting ourselves. And I wanted to be a connected mom. I wanted to be a connected person. And I still fail. There's always a gap between adult and child. There's always a gap between folks because we are very vastly different.
Absolutely.
The irony is, if you see me as different, I also see you as different. Right? But I just wanted to be someplace where I could share in our differences. I didn't want to be so far away from my kid that we weren't even experiencing life together. So I just found reasons and ways to say yes.
I do want to get your perspective on, okay, I'm a mom, regardless of who my child identifies as, this is how I'm going to show up for them. Like, do you mind just giving some tips on how you've grown?
I changed my language. So if he asks me to say he, I say he and him. I don't use pronouns of she and her. I changed the way I interact with the world. So I support businesses that are LGBT friendly. Okay. I send my children to schools that are LGBT and trans friendly. Okay. I make sure that my politics match up with LGBT needs and Black needs and women's needs, right? If I didn't do those things, politics, language, and where I spend my money, I would be phony. Maybe don't gender everything. Don't treat boys one way and girls one way. Right. Don't use a certain tone with young boys and a certain tone with young girls. Right. I try my best to take away the bias in interaction.
I call myself a spiritual shorty, and Jodie is also a spiritual shorty. And just navigating through the Black church. You know, I've gone through a period of ostracization and being shunned and having scriptures thrown at me in a negative way. But now I'm at a point where I'm like in a position where not only does my church family accept me, but my pastor and first lady also accept me. So for you, as someone who is also spiritual and go to church and belong to a church, how can the church really
support?
So absolutely.
I want pastors to be preaching who are gender nonconforming. I want deacons to also be representative of all of us. Absolutely. Right? I don't want to see just a heteronormative display of folks. I want to see a real display of folks in the church, in high positions, in low positions, in all positions. I think we need to find scriptures that speak to gender nonconformity. Everything's in the Bible. We can find anything. And gender nonconformity is from the beginning of time, and it is a part of God and a part of life. And so we need to pull that from the scriptures and show it and teach it. So when people say, how can you support your son in such awkward and awful behavior? And I say, what would Jesus do? Seriously? I believe Jesus would love my son, Penelope.
And I believe that as well. Just because, I mean,
Jesus loved everyone.
You got to get to, most people get the Old Testament, but it's like you get near the end of the New Testament and you read God is love. Yeah. And that God loves everyone and everything that he has created. There's
and I
want
to see the church say the words transgender, gender nonconforming, gender queer, because what the church, I think, one of our young folks are like not quote unquote buying into the church. They don't believe. They find it sometimes sexist. They find it sometimes
homophobic,
transphobic, xenophobic.
Yeah, all of it.
But so we need to speak to our young children and young adults where they are, and otherwise we will have this massive divide, right?
Absolutely.
I think, and it is the exact message of Jesus and of God.
So thank you so much, Jodie, for sitting down with me. I am truly honored and truly blessed to have had this conversation with you and just pick your brain outside of the bold world. I think that this is a book that anyone should read. If people want to buy your book or follow you on social media.
The Bold World is on Amazon. It's at Barnes & Noble. You can also go on my website, which is jodiepatterson.com, JODIEPATTERSON.com. And it has everything I do.
Yeah, so make sure you follow her. Make sure you keep up with her. Her and Pernell are part of the GAP campaign for Pride Month. So keep up with them. Keep up with her.
And you'll see us in all the GAP stores, on GAP website.
Listen, make sure you stay connected with Jodie and how she continues the journey and continues to learn more about not just the trans community, but more about her son and humanity and her son. And thank you so much. I appreciate you.
Awesome.
It's Diandra Marie. It's Jodie Patterson. And we're out.